As almost everyone in the Grandma knows by now, the second half of the 2000s decade was a rough time for Sonic. After just barely surviving Sonic 06, which is probably one of the most infamous games of all time, he continued to miss with new releases for the rest of the decade. This era has garnered the name the Dark Age, starting with Shadow the Hedgehog and ending with Sonic Freeriders in 2010. To be honest, I don't think some of the games released in this era were that bad, so I think a more appropriate name would be the Experimental Era, since in my opinion, the games themselves weren't bad, but as a Sonic game, they were pretty weird and had different kinds of gameplay people didn't really like. What people really wanted was just a return to form, which was attempted with Sonic 4 being a new 2D endeavor, but that game kind of fell flat on its face. But in November of 2010, this request was finally granted with the release of Sonic Colors, the next mainline modern Sonic game that wasn't bogged down by any werehog or glitches, just another good Sonic game. And both the fans and critics liked it a lot. I said in my Sonic Central video that I haven't actually played Sonic Colors before, or at least the Wii version, but in preparation for this remaster, I dusted off my Wii U and played through the entire game. And I gotta say, it's a pretty good game. I even think it's one of my favorite Sonic games in the entire series. During the Sonic Central event earlier this year, a remaster for Sonic Colors was announced titled Sonic Colors Ultimate, being available on all modern platforms as well as new HD graphics and some new features. Even though the digital deluxe thing Sega did was really shitty, I've still been pretty excited for it. Oh yeah, if anyone's wondering if I got it digitally or physically since my last video on it, yeah, I know I'm being a hypocrite, but look, I needed to get it early to make this review. Also, I'm impatient as hell. Now that we finally got our hands on it, let's take a look at Sonic Colors Ultimate and see if it does a good job remastering one of Sonic's best 3D titles. Also, this review is going to be focusing on both Sonic Colors itself and the Ultimate version, so I'll be bouncing around between the main game and the port job. The story in Sonic Colors is a lot more lighthearted than any of the other games in the franchise. Keep in mind, this game was planned to be Sonic's return to form after the Experimental Era, so they tried to play it as safe as possible, which in my opinion is the best way to describe the writing in the story. The plot of Sonic Colors revolves around Eggman building an amusement park in outer space consisting of many different planets chained together. Yeah, I'm getting some real deja vu here. Sonic and Tails go to investigate the park because why the fuck wouldn't they? And they soon discover that Eggman is actually utilizing an alien race known as the Wisps to power his amusement park and is taking over their planet in the process. So Sonic, being the good guy he is, goes on an adventure through Eggman's amusement park to foil his evil plans. That all is the basic gist of the plot in this game, since it isn't very important. Once again, it's Sonic Team playing things very safe, which isn't a bad thing, especially during the time this game was released in. Also, the majority of the cast from previous games are gone. The only characters here are Sonic, Tails, Eggman, and his two new assistants, Orbot and Cubot, which I honestly like the two of them since their designs are cool and I thought most of the jokes they were involved in not that bad. As much as I enjoy the stories in games such as Adventure 1 and 2, I'm fine with simple Sonic stories, but Sonic Colors also does something different, and that's turning the game into a comedy show.
So, how about you and me make like Eggman's hairline and recede?
Dude, those animals are so fucking funny, they make me want to merge without looking!
Yeah, it's no secret that 80% of the cutscenes are just Sonic cracking jokes, most of which are honestly just kinda meh if you're above the age of 9. Humor is something kinda hard to criticize in reviews since it's all subjective at the end of the day. I don't think it's terrible, not all of them make me want to die of cringe or anything, but I struggle to call any of them above just okay. Like, there are a few jokes I genuinely like, but the rest just honestly miss the mark. Something I've heard people say about the Sonic franchise after the release's Colors is that Sonic games should never take themselves seriously, which I strongly disagree with. For a story like Colors, Sonic mostly just being a comedian is fine with me, but seriously, there's something wrong with plots that have genuine stakes where the characters don't have to make quips every time they move a muscle. I honestly think Sonic's characterization hits its peak in Adventure 2. He stays serious whenever he needs to, but he's also very cocky, which makes him entertaining. In Colors, he's more focused on cracking jokes rather than just being confident. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, it isn't just Sonic.
But please refrain from riding on the ride. That would be disgusting. Do you know where those rides have been? People have been sitting on those rides. With their fun. Okay, go ahead. Lick them. Don't say anything.
Something I've also seen for the argument that Sonic should always be super self-aware is the fact that he's a speedy blue hedgehog, therefore they can't possibly take themselves seriously. But like almost every game has some sort of bizarre elements to it that can be applied to this argument. Sorry to get a bit off topic there, I just wanted to explain my stance on Sonic's writing in this game since recently it's had a lot more negative reception. Like, I don't think it's bad, I enjoy the premise and I think it's an okay idea to have Sonic being so snarky, but the jokes here are really just not funny in my personal opinion, so I remain very mixed about the story in this game. Before discussing gameplay, I'd like to talk about the presentation and visuals of Sonic Colors, which, spoiler alert, I think this game is beautiful. Even as a base Wii game, I think it looks great, and I adore almost all the level themes. All the way from Sweet Mountain to Asteroid Coaster, they all look beautiful. I especially enjoy Planet Wisp, since it's not only the home planet of the Wisps, as the name implies, but I also love the look of Eggman in the process of reconstructing the place for his amusement park. And Tropical Resort is pretty breathtaking at times too. So yeah, I honestly think this is some of the best aesthetics in the entire series. However, there is another can of worms I'd like to talk about, and that's the presentation of the Ultimate version. First of all, is it just me or Sonic's model looks too bright with really funky lighting, making it look kind of artificial, if that makes sense. And no, yeah, the lighting in this remaster is honestly really weird. I could really tell in Starlight Carnival, which had some of the best visuals out of all the zones in my opinion. The light roads here just look so washed out, and the way they looked in the original Wii version were honestly superior in my opinion. And there's also Tropical Resort just looking a lot darker, which I seriously don't get why they did this. But I thought the rest of the zones didn't look bad, and once again, even these changes to the lighting still can't conceal this game's beautiful art direction. Oh yeah, the cutscenes have also been AI upscaled to a higher resolution, so they look kind of funky, but I honestly don't think these are huge issues that some people have making them out to be. Like, yeah, sometimes they look like they're from that one mirror in the cutscene from Sonic Generations, but they're mostly all fine, and I don't have any issues with how they currently look. And we can finally discuss the gameplay of Sonic Colors. Like I said earlier in this review, Sonic Colors plays things pretty safe, basically just buckling down on the daytime portion of Sonic Unleashed, since people could at least come to the agreement those were good, unless you're like an IGN reviewer or something. But Colors still adds new elements to keep things fresh in the last game, so it isn't safe as, say, the new Super Mario Bros. Games. Sonic's moveset has seen a bit of tweaking since Unleashed. He can still jump, slide, homing attack, and boost, except now instead of being fueled by rings, you have to pick up specific Wisp capsules the game has a decent supply of. And you also have this new double jump, which looks very minuscule, but it can be useful for correcting jumps and such. He also still has the drift from Unleashed, but it's pretty different here, since now you have to steer with the stick and hold the boost button to actually drift, which can honestly be pretty awkward at times since you're unable to boost, meaning if you have a slow start, it'll just be Sonic awkwardly shimmying all over the place. I still think Sonic controls really well though, especially for the 2D segments. Now let's get into the real meat of the gameplay and Colors, the newly introduced Wisps. Like I mentioned in the story part, the Wisps are these alien creatures that Eggman is trying to utilize for his amusement park, but they can also possess Sonic and allow him to do some pretty crazy shit. The Wisps are one of my favorite parts of Sonic Colors, as they bring in some different gameplay styles that they're a lot of fun to use for exploring the levels in the game, which there are a lot of secrets to find both with and without Wisps. However, it isn't as rich as Sonic 3 and Knuckles. To list all of them, the Cyan Laser allows Sonic to blast off and reflect off walls just like a laser, as well as destroy any enemies in its path like a bowling ball. The Blue Cube lets you turn these blue coins into solid blocks and vice versa, which can make for some pretty interesting segments. The Yellow Drill turns you into a drill as you burrow in the ground for hidden goodies, and I really like using it for exploring levels since there's usually a lot to find. The Orange Rocket lets Sonic boost into the air and slowly fall. Yeah, this one is probably my least favorite Wisp out of them all. It isn't very accelerating to use like the rest of them. It's pretty simple on paper, and it is kind of slow. The Pink Spike gives a nice fuck you to Newton's laws of gravity and lets you roll on all kinds of walls and even break some blocks. One of my favorite ones, honestly, since they managed to hide a lot of secrets behind it, which I all enjoyed. It also lets you do the spin dash, but it isn't very reliable since it drains a lot of stamina. The Green Hover, well, lets you hover in the air for a while and even perform the good old light speed dash. This one is just okay. It's kind of slow and just isn't very fun to use. The Purple Frenzy turns Sonic into this monster that can devour just about everything in sight and slowly get bigger and easier to control, making it really satisfying to use at times, honestly. Those are all the Wisps from Sonic Colors originally. There are two exclusive ones in the DS, but those are a story for another day. But Sonic Colors Ultimate adds a brand new Wisp to the game, which is the Jade Ghost. What the hell is a Jade? Oh, it's like a jewel. The Jade Ghost allows Sonic to turn into a ghost that can fly around and phase through walls as long as there's a point for it to grab onto. I like this Wisp overall. It isn't one of my favorites, but it's fun to use. Something I've heard about Ultimate is that the Jade Wisp doesn't work since the game wasn't designed around it, but they literally altered some stage designs and rendering location for the Wisp to be used, and it doesn't get too much screen time either. I still thought it was as common as most of the other Wisps. So in conclusion, I really enjoyed the Wisps as power-ups. Since they made the already fun stages a lot more fun, it can be used to explore, which I already know is one of my favorite things to do in Sonic games. And all the Wisps feel different enough to be fresh. Unlike the adventure games, the levels here see Sonic shifting from 3D to 2D, with the 3D ones mostly for speed sections, the 2D ones are the careful platforming bits. And there is a good balance between the two. Sometimes I hear people bring up how there's a lot more 2D than 3D as a criticism, which honestly isn't wrong, but I still really enjoy the majority of the 2D sections in this game, mostly since the Wisps make up for it and are generally a lot better in 2D than 3D. But honestly, this kind of just makes me wish there was more actual 3D platforming in the game, or heck, just another game like the Adventure series that's just the Genesis games but in 3D. There's seriously like 3 sections in the entire game where you're doing platforming with the 3D perspective. I liked all those bits, so they kind of leave a lot to be desired, frankly. I guess the reason why the majority of the game is in 2D is that Sega was apparently trying to appeal to Mario fans with this game from what I've heard, which I guess makes sense. I don't know. I also hear some people saying that the 2D sections are like the most basic shit ever, which isn't really true, but sometimes it can be really easy, and sometimes just straight up boring. Like Sway Mountain Act 4 is the fucking marble zone of Sonic Colors, bro. Unleashed also switched perspectives, but that game still had a bigger emphasis on speed. Meanwhile, the main focus of Sonic Colors is platforming, which I think is perfectly fine, but I do understand why some wish there is more speed in the game. Some of the 3D sections even have times where you have to switch lanes to avoid obstacles of these robots you can't stop fucking finding everywhere, and I thought they were fun, but some levels are nothing but about that, and they were kind of annoying to go back to, frankly. Like Terminal Velocity Act 1 is really annoying to go back to if you didn't get an S rank on your first run, and then the big purple robot at the end is kind of bullshit, but I won't get into it. Also, the game loves reusing the same set piece of Sonic running alongside these motobugs, and you have to spam the quick step to trip them. Like, it was kind of fun the first time, but it got boring fast, especially since you can literally just spam the quick step without a single thought and win. Heck, they even made an entire act dedicated to it in Asteroid Coaster. Sonic Colors does something really weird, and that's stomping all over the structure of Sonic games. So after Sonic 1, it was finally decided that 2 acts are the perfect amount for zones, since it's just enough without getting boring. Sonic Colors, however, has 6 fucking acts per zone, 7 if you include the boss ones. I know, on paper this sounds horrendous, but the length of all the levels in Sonic Colors fluctuates a lot. Most levels aren't even longer than 3 minutes, but some can reach as long as 5 and others can be really short. The stages here are pretty bite-sized, which I like, since going through the game, each zone will probably only take like 30 minutes each. And this game does only have 6 zones opposed to Sonic 3's 14. Something I noticed is that the opening acts are usually the ones with more meat to their bones, but the farther you get, those really short acts will start to appear. Like, I'm talking ones that'll probably take you 50 seconds that are entirely in 2D. But sometimes it isn't quite true, since Aquarium Park Act 1 is one of the longer stages in the zone, and Act 2 is like literally the easiest stage in the entire damn game. This doesn't mean I hate the really short 2D stages though. I really like Asteroid Coaster Act 3, so not only is it short, but I like how it made use of all the red star rings in this stage while still staying short. Some just feel lazy though, like I swear, Tropical Resort Act 4 is almost entirely a section ripped from Act 1 with little to no change. In the aforementioned second act of Aquarium Park is seriously like 30 seconds long, dude. Colors has a total of 7 zones, each one being an attraction at Eggman's Intergalactic Amusement Park. You start at Tropical Resort, the entrance to the park. Tropical Resort is a great opening stage in my opinion, and it's still just a load of fun anyway with some dope aesthetic. Next up is Sweet Mountain, if you're like me at least, since the game does let you choose which one to do next, but in the order of the achievements, so who cares? Anyway, Sweet Mountain is a food themed stage, being a fever dream for anyone with diabetes, filled to the brim with donuts, cheeseburgers, and other unhealthy food. Starlight Carnival is this beautiful area in space with tons of neon lights and other spaceships. But to be honest, all the light road segments got kind of annoying when I was going back to S rank every level, since you obviously can't make them go faster or anything. Planet Wisp is the home planet of the Wisp race, and I honestly love how the zone looks with Eggman's industrial influence. You know, I can probably call this one my favorite zone, honestly. It even has a kick-ass track. Aquarium Park is a water theme level because of fucking course Sonic has to have one of these. But honestly, the water isn't that bad, since A, a lot of times you can use the drill wisp under there, and B, you can just straight up avoid the water. Not like an aquatic ruin that requires careful path planning. No, you can just boost over the water and you won't fall in. Also, this zone has a great track accompanying it, and the overall aesthetics are awesome, taking some influence from Eastern pagodas and shit. Asteroid Coaster is a roller coaster taking place in the asteroid belt, which frankly doesn't look as cool as the Rainbow Road from Starlight Carnival. I love the music for this zone, but there's also this gimmick with the blocks that push you that I didn't really like, since they'll fucking one-shot you. Lastly, you have Terminal Velocity, which isn't a traditional zone, so there's only one act and a boss. I already talked about the one act, but I thought the boss was pretty cool since Eggman uses the Wisp powers against you. Then after that, the credits roll, and man, I love Speak With Your Heart. Honestly, one of my favorite vocal tracks in the entire series. And when you look at the competition, that's a pretty impressive achievement. Oh yeah, why don't we talk about the soundtrack? Sonic Colors has a soundtrack that's awesome. All the tracks here are such a banger. Like god, they all just make you want to fucking dance. Sonic Colors also has 2 main vocal tracks for the game, one for the opening being Reach for the Stars, which is honestly really catchy, and Speak With Your Heart for the credits, which as I said is awesome. But Ultimate being Ultimate does something funky and remixes like the entire soundtrack, which I'm honestly very mixed on. Firstly, there are new versions of the vocal tracks, with the Reach for the Stars one being the rendition from the Sonic 30th Symphony, which I actually prefer over the original. But yeah, this new Speak With Your Heart just doesn't do it for me, so I prefer the original. Also, they could have just used the one from the 30th Anniversary Symphony since it was right there, and that rendition is awesome too, but whatever, be stupid, that's what you do best, Sega. Also, please put the 30th Symphony on Spotify, I will ejaculate! Aside from the vocal tracks, every zone theme has had its theme entirely remixed, which as I said earlier, I'm very mixed on. The Tropical Resort remixes aren't bad, I just prefer the originals, and I think the new instruments don't add that much to it. Speaking of added instruments, god, what the hell did they do to Planet Wisp Act 1? The song from the original game had a very calm start with this lovely piano, then the rest kicks in later. And when you think about it, it kinda makes sense, since this was originally a peaceful home for the Wisps, until Eggman came and took it over for his amusement park. Now listen to the rendition in Ultimate. Like, god fucking damn, am I playing Planet Wisp or Geometry Dash? I'm also not really a fan of what they did to Aquarium Park Act 1. It used to be one of my favorite tracks in the entire game because it's just so damn groovy. Now the added instruments just sound weird. And lastly, we have the new rendition of Sweet Mountain. What the hell happened, man? I love the track from the original. It was very in your face in the beginning, but that's what I liked about it, so they had me bouncing all around. And I'm sure others can agree on that as well. Now let's listen to the Ultimate track. God, this version just feels so muted, honestly. Like, they stripped away its soul and it just sounds like donkey farts. Most of the remixes here take away the main focus for these newer instruments, which already I'm not the biggest fan of. And as a result, there are barely any background instruments, which I felt the most of Sweet Mountain. Or sometimes there's too much noise like a Planet Wisp. Obviously, this is all my opinion. They aren't objectively bad or anything, just in my personal opinion. I prefer the originals over most of the new ones. Fortunately for me, only half of the acts use their new remixes. Since there are 6 acts per zone, 3 use the remix tracks and 3 use the original ones, which is better than only having the remixes, right? But come on, Sega, you could have at least included an option to disable the remixes in favor for only using the originals. I would be complaining a lot less if I didn't have to listen to this muted version of Sweet Mountain for half a damn decade because of how much a pain in the ass the S ranks were on the zone. Besides just beating the main story, there are some other things you can have fun with within Sonic Colors. For example, you could do what I did and go for 100% completion all across the board, which means getting all 5 red star rings on each stage, getting an S rank, and getting all the Chaos Emeralds to unlock Super Sonic. Firstly, what are these red star rings I speak of, since Colors is the game where they made their first appearance? The red star rings are kind of like the start coins you find in Mario. They're these optional things you can collect that are usually hidden somewhere within a zone, and there's 5 total per act. You can expect to end up using the Wisp lot to find the red rings, so going for completion maybe appreciate them a lot more. I also love how the red star rings give you a great incentive to want to explore the stages in Sonic Colors, since they have lots of nooks and crannies to explore with and without the Wisps. The red star rings are also crucial for getting the best possible rank on any stage, the S rank. Getting an S rank obviously requires you to get the highest score you possibly can. However, there are many factors to consider when going for an S rank. Unlike some games, you don't just want to speedrun the stage as fast as you can. No. I actually recommend taking your time with the S ranks to a certain extent, and here's why. To get an S rank, you'll need to collect as many rings and defeat as many enemies as you can, which is kinda no-brainer. Utilize as many Wisps as you're able to so they can provide a bunch of extra points, and also go for the majority of the red star ranks so they can give you a lot of points, which can be crucial for getting ranked to the end. The game is actually pretty forgiving when it comes to time for S ranks. However, the required score for the S rank does fluctuate with the time it takes you to beat the stage, so still, try not to waste your time. The more red rings you collect, you realize that there's something going on this planet in the corner that looks like Sonic. This place is called Gameland, where you can play Eggman's Sonic Simulator, which contains these short little stages mostly focusing on 2D platforming. And they have this really blocky aesthetic that I thought was neat. And it even plays retro remixes of the other tracks. You can only unlock more stages in Gameland as you get more red rings though, so if you want more stages to play, you better get collecting. Gameland has a total of 21 levels to play, 3 each per zone. And beating a zone in Gameland will reward you with the Chaos Emerald. And once you collect all 7, you can transform into the almighty Super Sonic. Finally, for the first time, Super Sonic is playable in 3D without being exclusive to final bosses. Back then, this was a pretty big deal frankly, but how is Super Sonic now? Firstly, you can toggle him on or off in the options menu, and second, he functions mostly the same as he did in the Genesis games. 50 rings to activate, slowly drains rings over time, can plow through almost every enemy in its path, but now you have unlimited boost and he can't use any Wisps, which doesn't make him that fun to play honestly. But I guess it is cool if you want to play as Super Sonic. Also, why the hell is this roll grinding animation so awkward? Now that's all there is to Sonic Colors. Overall, I think it's a fantastic Sonic game, maybe even in my top 5, and it did a great job providing a return to form for its time of release. But before closing off the video, there is one more thing we need to discuss, and that's the quality of the remaster in Sonic Colors Ultimate. Now, I've already talked about some things regarding the remaster, like the soundtrack, the weird lighting, and the brand new Jade Wisp, but this segment will be for everything else, like the other new features and technical performance. Sonic Colors Ultimate adds some new things and tweaks some already existing ones, some of which I've already gone over, but one of these tweaks is the new tail save feature, which replaces the live system. Instead of having traditional lives where you restart from the last checkpoint and a game over will make you restart the entire act, this time Tails will come to save you and bring you back close to where you died, usually before a bottomless pit or something. Now there is the whole argument about lives being an outdated game mechanic, which I'm not going to go into detail about, but I don't really understand why this is one of the selling points, and Sonic Colors already isn't a very challenging game like at all. And it also basically trivializes checkpoints, and it's easy to get a bunch of them. Honestly, I don't really care if it uses the normal lives or the tail save, but still, an option to disable the tail save in favor of normal lives would be nice. But of course, you can't change shit. Ultimate also adds a brand new collectible to the game, which are the park tokens. These can be found throughout the levels, and even given as a reward for getting a high ranking. They can be spent on new customizations for Sonic, not as crazy as the OC editor and Sonic Forces. All you can really change are his gloves, boots, aura, and boost. I didn't really care for the gloves and boot customizations much, but I did think customizing the boost and aura was actually pretty cool. Still, if you don't really care for any of these, which I didn't for the most part, it'll be pretty unsatisfying when the game gives you one, since you don't even get any extra score or anything. And it's especially unrewarding when you find a hidden path and that's all you get. Still, maybe some kids are playing this game will have a blast giving Sonic green shoes and tiger gloves. When you collect half of the red rings in a zone, you unlock the Rival Rush mode for one of the acts. And the way it pops up I find pretty humorous. It reminds me of one of those hot Asian singles in your area ads you see on those fishy websites. But jokes aside, Rival Rush lets you race against the Ghosts of Metal Sonic in one selected act per zone, and these races are weld their races against Metal Sonic in one selected app per zone. Metal Sonic's animations are extremely awkward, especially with the moving platforms since they aren't in sync with yours. And seeing him float is pretty funny, but he isn't very hard to beat either. Could they have at least done maybe 2 acts per zone with the Rival Rush, not just 1? I mean, honestly, I don't really care about this feature that much, but it still would have been nice. Now let's discuss the technical performance of this remaster. To get to the point, yeah, this port is pretty unpolished. I'm just gonna run down the issues I experienced. Sometimes certain songs just won't play at all, such as the Wisp themes are on the results screen, letting you just soak in the emptiness. There's some pop-in and other occurrences where objects will disappear before they even off screen. The load times are usually longer than they would be on the Wii version. That was on a PS5 running a PS4 game. Sonic's pupils just don't move during his stretching at the beginning of an act. That looks weird, honestly. Especially since in the original they moved, so were they just lazy or something? The fish at Aquarium Park flicker in the background, but honestly I never noticed this until my friend pointed it out, so it wasn't that noticeable. Sometimes the audio mixing is weird, like some sounds will be really loud or really quiet, and other times things like Sonic's voice will only come out of my left or right ear when wearing headphones. Those are mostly all the issues I ran into that I can remember. I only had one crash in my entire experience, and I didn't lose any significant progress. But I had a few occasions where upon booting the game up, it was nothing but a black screen until I restarted the application. And I also didn't notice any frame drops either. Anyway, speaking of frame rate, this game runs at a really smooth 60 frames per second compared to the Wii's 30. However, a good friend of mine had his entire save file on the game get corrupted after a crash, meaning he lost all of his data on the game, which is frankly unacceptable. And I've heard other people experiencing this issue as well. Now I have to back up my save every time I close the game out of fear it may happen to me. And trust me, I didn't forget about the Switch version. In fact, I've been saving it for last. You know what? I'll just throw up an epilepsy warning here since the upcoming footage may be seizure inducing. I'm honestly at a loss for words for the Switch version of Sonic Colors. Like, how the hell did this even get past the testing phase? Also, to my knowledge, this only happens when you start planet hopping a lot, so it isn't a normal occurrence, but still, the fact you can even do it is embarrassing. One of the first people to post a video of the Switch version has confessed using a Switch emulator, which, by the way, people who do that kind of stuff are fucked up, and they can seriously ruin Sonic's already shit reputation. So now I'm kind of skeptical of all the footage I see of Sonic Colors on Switch, but still, if you can, I would recommend avoiding the Switch version just in case. Okay, so in conclusion, I think Sonic Colors is honestly one of Sonic's best 3D titles. It has a beautiful art direction, fun gameplay that expands upon the daytime portions of Unleashed, a simple but decent story, and a kick-ass soundtrack. Now, talking about the Ultimate port, if you don't have access to the Wii version, I think Sonic Colors Ultimate is a good enough option as long as you aren't playing on the Switch. Sure, it has a lot of bugs and is pretty unpolished, but the majority of them are very minor and didn't affect my enjoyment of the game. It's still good old Sonic Colors, and I had a blast playing Ultimate. The new features added are good enough in my opinion. I like the new Jade Wisp, but I didn't care for the Rival Rush, customization, and the tail saves, but I know some people might, so there's that. The original game is going for around 15 bucks nowadays, so if you're short on cash and still have your Wii U around, that version is perfectly viable in my opinion. But Sonic Colors Ultimate is still my preferred way of playing Sonic Colors. I know it may piss off some people, but I genuinely really enjoyed playing through this remaster of one of Sonic's best 3D games, and I'm glad new audiences will be able to experience this once Wii exclusive game.